A group of wives from the same neighborhood planned a big picnic trip. They rented a full bus, laughing and chatting as they waved goodbye to their husbands. Before leaving, the bus hit the road. But tragically, a few hours later, news came back to the neighborhood. The bus had crashed. There were no survivors. The entire neighborhood was in shock. All the husbands were devastated, crying and mourning their wives. For the first week, every man in the neighborhood was grieving. Some stayed indoors, others gathered to comfort each other. And everyone shared stories about their late wives. But as the second week rolled around, most of the husbands started moving on, gradually returning to their normal routines. Except for one man, he continued crying day and night, looking absolutely miserable. His neighbors grew worried about him. Finally, one of the husbands approached him and asked, "Hey, we're all heartbroken, but you've been crying nonstop for over 2 weeks? Why are you so much more upset than the rest of us?" The man looked up, tears streaming down his face, and said miserably, "Because my wife missed the bus." A stay-at-home mom has a secret boyfriend who visits while her husband is at work. One afternoon, they're busy when her husband comes home early. She panics and shoves her boyfriend into the closet, not realizing her 9-year-old son is already there. "It's real dark in here," the boy said. Yeah, it is," the man replied. "I got a PlayStation," boy said. "That's nice," man said. "Want to buy it?" boy said. "No, thanks," man said. "My dad's right outside," boy said. "How much for the PlayStation?" man asked. $300, boy answered. The man sighed. "Fine." A few days later, the same thing happens. Mom's boyfriend ends up in the closet again. "It's dark in here," boy said. Man groans. "Oh no, not again, boy." "I got a VR headset," boy said. "That's nice," man said. "Want to buy it?" boy asked. "No, boy," man replied. "I think my dad might be looking for his baseball bat right about now." "All right. How much?" man asked. $750, boy smilingly said. The man hands over the cash. A few days later, the boy's dad says, "Hey, buddy, let's play PlayStation together." I sold it, Dad," boy replied. "Huh? What for? How much?" $1,050, Dad." "Son, that's way too much." "You need to confess your sins at church." He takes the boy to church and sits him in the confession booth. The priest slides the window open. "It's dark in here, priest." "Oh, no, not this again." A woman visits her husband in prison. After a long day of talking, she notices how tired he looks, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. "Honey, you look really worn out." "Are they working you too hard?" Husband, sighing, says, "It's nothing, just some extra duties. I'm fine, really." But the wife is still worried as their visit comes to an end. She walks toward the exit, passing the correction officer on duty. She stops and decides to speak up. "Excuse me? I just wanted to let you know. Please don't make my husband work so hard. He's been exhausted from all the extra work." The officer chuckles, looking at her like she's confused. "What? Your husband doesn't work? Are you kidding?" The wife, still concerned, frowns and says, "He told me he's been digging a tunnel for months now." The officer's smile fades instantly. His eyes widen as he starts looking around in a panic. A man strolls into a fancy 2-story restaurant and heads straight for the bar. He plops onto a stool, adjusts his jacket, and casually asks the bartender, "Hey, how much for a beer?" The bartender, wiping down a glass, and says, 50 cents. The man nearly falls off his stool. "Wait, 50 cents? You serious? Is this a prank show? Where's the camera?" The bartender just shrugs. "Nope, it's real." Still in shock, the man slaps $1 on the counter. All right? Give me 2 before you snap out of whatever magic spell you're under. As he enjoys his drinks, curiosity kicks in. Okay, if beer is this cheap, then how much for a big juicy New York steak? A mashed potatoes, fresh salad, and a whole cheesecake for dessert? The bartender smirks and says, "That'll be $3. The man's jaw hits the floor. What? Who owns this place? I need to meet this legend. The bartender chuckles. Oh! He's upstairs in his office with my wife. The man blinks. Wait, what's he doing with your wife? The bartender sighs, leans in and whispers, the same thing I'm doing to his business. A young man sat across from an old wealthy man and asked, "Sir, how did you become so rich?" The old man smiled, adjusting his fine wool vest, and said, "Through hard work, my boy. Hard work and honesty." The young man leaned in eagerly. "What kind of hard work?" The old man nodded and began his story. "Well, son, it was 1932, in the middle of the Great Depression. I was completely broke down to my last nickel. With that nickel, I bought a single apple. I spent the entire day polishing it until it gleamed. That evening, I sold it for 10 cents. The next morning, I used those 10 cents to buy 2 apples. Again, I spent all day polishing them, and by evening, I sold them for 20 cents. I kept this up, buying, polishing, selling day after day, week after week. I worked from sunrise to sunset, never giving up and never losing focus. By the end of the month, I had turned my last nickel into a small fortune of $6.40. The young man's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Wow, so that's how you got rich?" The old man chuckled, took a sip of his brandy, and said, "Oh no!" Then my wife's father died and left us. $1 million. A sweet old lady nervously called St. Joseph's Hospital and whispered, "Hello? Is it possible to speak with someone who can tell me how a patient is doing?" The operator, ever so polite, replied, "Of course, Mom. What's the patient's name and room number?" With a shaky voice, the old lady said, "Norma Findley, room 3. The operator smiled through the phone. "All right, ma'am, let me check. Hold on just a moment." A few minutes later, the operator returned with a cheerful tone. "Great news, Mom." The nurse says, "Norma is doing fantastic. Blood pressure perfect. Test results all normal. And guess what? Dr. Cohen has scheduled her to go home tomorrow." There was a long pause, and then the old lady sighed. "Oh, thank you so much. That's the best news I've heard all day. God bless you, dear." The operator, touched by her relief, gently asked, "You're welcome, Mom. Is Norma your daughter?" The old lady laughed and said, "No, honey. I'm Norma Findley in room 3. Nobody ever tells me anything about how I'm doing.